were considering selling a big portion of our company. I had an offer for $15 million. This morning, I let them know that we would not be taking that money.
Why would you say no to that?
I sat there and looked as like a 28-year-old kid with the opportunity to become wealthier than anyone in my family. Every time I say yes to these people, I'm actually saying no to my wife and kids. Being a father is one of the most confronting things.
What have you confronted?
Almost everything. And God told me, like, if I told you to walk away, would you? For the first time ever in my whole life, my actual answer was yes.
There's just a big trend right now where people are not having families. They're not interested in having kids. I don't think there's anything more important than developing and creating the next generation. And dude, in the last 20 years, it fell off a cliff. We're now below replacement rate.
2 weeks ago, I looked at pornography and I haven't told my wife, are we really honest and tell the truth even when it's hard?
When did you start defending your time? Because this is the right thing to do. I like your formatting around it. Mm-hmm. That's probably the best way I've heard anyone articulate that.
Yeah.
But when did you start doing that?
I mean, really intentionally, only in the last probably like 2 years. And it was probably at the point where my wife started really having like an issue with just me not giving her time. And I would be like, babe, like I'm just, like I got to be on the business. I got to do the business. And then I really started auditing my time and thinking about it. I'm like, dude, a lot of the time I'm late, or a lot of the time that I end up not being where I was supposed to be because I told my wife I was going to be there. It wasn't my business. It wasn't my fitness goals. It was some random person in between who stopped me, who I didn't really want to give my time to. I didn't really choose to give my time to that. I didn't schedule it in. And I ended up giving them an extra 30, 45 minutes. And I shouldn't have. And so it was like this realization of, man, every time I say yes to these people, I'm actually saying no to my wife and kids.
Whoa.
And that was enough of a like awareness as I looked at it to go, okay, I have to be willing to say no. And I have a really hard time saying no. And so one of my coaches, I brought this up with him, and he's like, well, don't say no, just say yes if. So that's when I came up with the, like, you can come with me. So I say, hey, can I ask you some questions about whatever? I'm like, yeah, yes, if you want to come work out with me at 7 a.m. I'll be at my gym. Yes, if you want to, get in the car, I'm driving over to here with me, like, you can come with me. And so just trying to figure out, like, how can I easily say no without feeling like a dick also helped me pull it off, because I do have a hard time saying no. Like, I want to be nice. I want to give everyone my time and say yes, but realizing that yes is actually a no, typically to my wife and kids. And they're going to end up getting the scraps of me rather than the prioritized time from me. So.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Well, at this stage in your life, dude, your business is absolutely crushing it. You're doing like tens of millions in revenue. And so it's like everybody now sees the success story, doesn't know everything that kind of led into it. And so then, it is like, I have to be protective of my time, because your business will probably take all 24 hours if you give it.
Oh, it could, easily.
You're in this role where you have built literally like one of the coolest companies ever. Like, the branding is sick. The product is phenomenal. I take it every morning. I take several of the products actually every single morning. So people know you. They're like, oh, he's the creatine king. You were on a different episode here at the studio a couple weeks ago, and it opened up this door. And that's really more what I want to talk to you about. Yeah. So you, as a married man, you have sons. What did you have to start coming to peace with? Because you had a pretty complicated father relationship. What has it been like, just kind of now that you've been a father now for a couple of years? Man,
dude, being a father is one of the most confronting things that can ever happen in your life, because with ourselves, what do I believe? What do I want to be? Who do I want to be? All of those questions you can kind of push them off and push them out of your mind, but then all of a sudden you create another you and you're looking at this child and that kind of looks like you and kind of reminds you of you and reminds you of the kid version of you. And you go, well, who do I want him to be? And what do I want to make sure he believes? And he's going to choose to believe his own things, but like, what things do I need to make sure to transfer to this child? Which then ultimately comes back to, well, shit, like, what do I actually believe? What do I actually stand on? Who do I actually view myself to be and view as important? And I remember when my first son was in my wife's womb, I started giving him affirmations in the womb through my wife's belly. It started with I would say, like, emotional. I would just be like, hey son, like it's dad, whatever, and just being silly. And then I'd be like, you're strong and you're brave and you're courageous. That was just how I would say it. And then I just started like adding other words to it for some reason. I'd be like, you're strong, you're courageous, you're brave, and you're kind. You're so kind. And like sometimes it would be like something dumb I did that would make me think like, man, I want my kid to not be that way. And I'd be like, you're strong, you're brave, you're courageous, you're kind, you're loving, you're so smart, you're destined for greatness, you're a hard worker, you're a leader, you're honest, you tell the truth even when it's hard. You're powerful, you're fast, you don't get tired, you're optimistic, you're grateful, and with God, anything is possible. And no matter what, mom and dad will always love you. So that's what it's created to be. Now that my son's 5, we just added like one a couple weeks ago. So it's come to be that. But all those things are things that as I say it to him, it's really this mirror back to say, do I actually stand on that? So when I say we're honest, we tell the truth even when it's hard. And I know 2 weeks ago, I looked at pornography and I haven't told my wife. I'm like, are we really honest and tell the truth even when it's hard? Like what I started to realize was like, I made those affirmations for me, not really for him. I hope he gets them, but the only way he really gets them is not because we said them every night. It's because he got to actually see me live that out. So anyway, I again say becoming a father is the most confronting thing I think that can happen in a man's life. And it's one of the most rewarding because it truly challenges you to ask the questions that you can easily avoid of who do I actually believe myself to be? What do I actually believe in? And you have to answer it. You can't just avoid it anymore, or you do, and you know that the consequence is you're going to just create another person who goes into the world not knowing who they are, what they believe, and makes a mess of things, just like it seems like your dad kind of has. And so, yeah.
Wow. Bro, that's wild. I've imagined it a ton.
Yeah.
I feel like I would, when I find out my wife is going to be pregnant one day, I imagine I would do something like that. But dude, like it contrasts so much. I see so many entrepreneurs put their family on the altar of sacrifice so that they can build all this other stuff. It's like, well, I built all this other stuff, so I was supposed to be able to support. So it starts to just kind of be the snake that eats its own tail. And like, where do you juxtapose those two things really well in the last episode that I heard you talking. I was like, I just want to talk with you about that. After the first son comes, and now he's 5, what is that consistency like? Because it's like, we can do this for 9 months. But then it's like, well, he's going to be here now forever. So you have to consistently do that forever, which means you have to really identify, am I internalizing all the things as well? Because they'll see right through you, man. That's the craziest thing everyone says. Like, your kids are the craziest mirror.
Yeah.
And you said that it causes you, it's the most confronting thing. So what have you confronted?
Man, everything.
I need to learn, bro. I need to learn from you.
Well, everything I believed, like, I confronted my faith in God in a massive way because I realized I had judged my dad because I was like, he, by the way, context if my dad's listening, I love my dad and he is one of the greatest mentors I've had. So he went through so many difficulties. He made a lot of poor choices, had affairs, and, we could go down that story of, all those things. And, he ended up going to prison, and we just had a lot of negative happen, but also he chose to transform his own life in that and has become one of the most stable, consistent humans that I know of. So cool. There's kind of two sides to his story, but the thing that I judged him for as a young kid, and then I watched, like, he had these affairs, he did these things, like, but he would send us to church, and he would take us to church, or when we were in prison, we would have Sunday in the prison church messages from my dad. Yeah, we'd read from the Bible, and I grew up Mormon, so we'd read from the Book of Mormon, but I had this judgment of like, is this, do you actually believe it? Because if you actually believed it, like, you would live it full out. Like, that was my perception, and he didn't live it as Peter preached it as I guess you could say some other people. Dogmatically as he could have. He had kind of like created his own, what he felt was right and wrong, whatever. Anyway, so I judged that, and I thought, for me, I was like, well, I don't want my kid to wonder what I believe. Like if I'm in on it, if I'm in on this church, if I'm in on this thing, like my kids got to know I'm all in and not question me on it. And so, or know that I'm not all in and that I'm very open about that and that I'm questioning it. Like I'm even okay with that. But he has to know the truth. Like we're honest and we tell the truth even when it's hard. So that forced me to confront that in a massive way and say, like, do I really believe this, or was I just raised in it? Is this, I had someone present this question to me, so I grew up Mormon, and as a Mormon or Latter-day Saint, you serve a 2-year mission when you turn 18. And I served my 2-year mission, and while I was out there, this Muslim guy we met asked me this question. He said, if you grew up Muslim, if you grew up in my family, and we served Muslim missions when we turned 18, do you think you'd be out on a Muslim mission right now? And when he said that, like it really like shifted something in my brain, because it stuck with me to this day. It was such a massive moment, this little moment. This guy probably has no recollection of it. But I remember thinking, yeah, I probably would be. And it was like a really scary thought. We said, well, if I would be on a Muslim mission, that probably means I'm not here because God told me to be or because this is true, but for some other reason, being, it's the right thing to do. It's because it was like, my family told me to do it. And I loved my mission, by the way. And I think it was divine that I went and all the things I learned and everything that came of it. But I did realize in that moment, I probably would have been serving a Muslim mission, or it could have been a Jewish mission, or it could have been a Buddhist mission, or it could have been a non-denominational Christian mission. It would have been whatever was the right thing to do is probably what I would have been doing. But I realized what I was doing was the right thing, not the thing God had told me specifically. Whoa. And so that really opened up a can of worms for me. For that, probably it was like lasted the last.
Am I a product of my environment? Is that what I'm learning here?
Yeah, 10 years. And so, but after that, I just kind of like set it to the side, but it wasn't until we had our first kid that I really realized I got to figure this out. I'm going to raise this kid in here. And I was able to shelf it to some degree. It was kind of in the back of my head. But then once we had our first kid, I really was like, I got to figure this out. I cannot just raise a kid and not really believe what I'm behind. So yeah, what have I questioned or what have I confronted since having kids? It's like almost everything. And the same thing, like even in my marriage, like confronting my marriage, it's like, do we really want to be together? Are we going to be together because now we have kids and that's just what you do, or because we really love each other and we're really committed to this? And I went through a journey of really trying to figure that question out and deciding like, okay, no, we're in this and we're going to create an amazing marriage, and we're not going to do what our parents did or these people did, but we're going to do what we want to do. And so, dude, it's everything has been confronted since having kids.
So you and I have that shared background of growing up, very devout Latter-day Saints, both serve missions. A lot of people have no context for it. The few that do, it's like, this is a high commitment faith. And so it's like,
not like leaving your local church and going to a different one.
No, like Easter, Mother's Day, Christmas, like people don't understand, dude. Like from the time we're like 3 years old, we are singing songs. I hope they call me on a mission. Yeah. I am going into the temple. I know I'll go inside someday. All of those things. It's an extremely sophisticated, I'll look at it just like through the lens of like business. Like if you get a lifelong customer, which is one kind of reductive. The retention model is, oh my gosh,
amazing.
Well, up until COVID, at least, which is kind of insane. Yeah, but they're so effective at getting people conditioned at looking at all of life and basically all of reality, plus your relationship with God through that lens.
Through that lens, yeah.
And honestly, only net positive has come from it for me.
Yeah, it's great.
And you and I have talked quite a bit about since having this evolving faith journey, and it's really probably shocking to some people because they're like, I don't know, you have a relationship with God, which is like, I either believe that he's there and probably has some good vibes for me, and then when shit hits the fan, I'll go and pray. But it's like, no, like we devoted our lives. We wake up at 6 a.m. You go out, you talk with people. It is all you think. It's all you do. You go to a religious school afterwards. Like it's the fabric of your entire reality. Yeah. And then you get to a point in your life where you go, am I going to teach my kids this? Yeah. And so I like what I got from it. Yeah. I felt like by default, I would want my kids to have the same moral framework. Yep. So then I would just teach them this, but I don't know if it's in alignment anymore. I don't know if that's a congruent thing for me to say, oh, I'll just raise them in the church. Because then I feel like I'm almost outsourcing my ability to like create morality, create a framework for my kids. Yeah. I don't know how to reconcile that personally, because I have a philosophy around my faith journey, and I wonder if this is resonant with you. If I go outside and I look at a tree, and I point to that tree and I go, look at that seed.
Yeah.
I'm not wrong, because it once was.
Seed, yeah.
But it's grown into something else. And in that growth journey, it may have changed its perspective. Now it's no longer in the soil. It's come aground.
Yeah.
And it's actually taller than it was before. It has a different vantage point than it did when it started. So it's like, yeah, okay, in my infancy, my core entrance into life, I was this thing. But I've evolved and I've grown quite a bit. And to resist that would be counterintuitive to my nature.
Yeah.
Now, the escalation of this thought is like, there are some people when they leave the church, if we're going to like put it in a binary camp, when they leave, a lot of them hold anger.
Yeah,
like
resentment.
Real resentment.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, it took so much time. It took so much energy from me, which I find crazy, because it's like, if you're upset that you gave so much time and energy to it, leaving it and then being angry at it is still
giving
doing
it
the
more
same.
time and energy.
It's bewildering.
Yeah.
But it's also like, it doesn't serve you, because those are your roots.
Yep.
So if a tree suddenly goes, man, my roots, that's not me anymore. And you start cutting out your own roots. Well, what does that do for you either? What kind of tree doesn't have roots? It's unstable. And so I try and reconcile all of this, which is I think there are many paths to the top of the same mountain. Because if you were raised in an Islamic home, you'd be an Islamic missionary.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know how to put truth under a trademark.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can patent connection to the divine.
Yeah.
I know that there certainly exist trademarks and patents, and
sure.
there's a lot of people prescriptively saying this is the way up, but it's like, yeah, but the next 1,000 churches are also saying the same thing.
Yeah.
What I do know is that I want more people in this world to probably be raised in some religion, even if it's not objectively binary true. Yeah. Because I really like the outcome.
For sure.
So how are you going to raise kids, man, in this journey? Yeah,
that is the, I think, biggest question that we've wrestled with, me and my wife. And for a while, I decided, hey, I don't think this church is true in the sense of like what I thought it was growing up. That I don't believe that there's men on the earth that are speaking to God like in my behalf in this exclusive, unique way that I don't have access to. Like it just, anyway, I don't believe in this system that I believe growing up. Not that I think the system's bad. I actually agree with you that I owe so much to that system, to those standards, to those morals. And something that was interesting, so I decided to leave the church. It was not like I had read a bunch of historic anti-literature or anything like that. I was...
the shelf.
I still, to this day, have not read any quote-unquote anti-material. And what happened was, like, I just deeply had this question of, like, do I actually believe this is true? And, another added layer of like the pressure or the retention model, you could say, for me, was like my mom passed away when I was 3, and my mom had left letters behind of, I want my sons to be married in the temple. I want my sons to serve missions. So there was this like massive weight on me of like, I have to make my mom proud. And, this is what she wanted for me. So there was that weight. There's also that I have ancestors who, Heber J. Grant, my son's name is Heber. He was a prophet of the church. So I have this like ancestral line that says
related to Heber J. Grant.
Yeah.
No kidding.
So I have this like, you can't be the one to break the chain, you know what I mean? I have this great prophetic heritage. And so there's all this weight on it. And I was literally at church on Saturday morning at 5 a.m. cleaning the church. So I was like fulfilling my calling.
Man.
That Sunday, me and my 4-year-old son get up. My son bears his testimony. I bear my testimony. We go teach our primary class. That was me and my wife's calling.
No kidding.
That Tuesday, I'm in Utah, and I go visit Heber J. Grant's headstone. And I go every time, even still, like I was there about a month ago, and I go visit his like more of a monument at the Salt Lake Cemetery. It's really cool. It's this beautiful view over the Salt Lake Valley. I'd love to go there. So I go there, and after I go there, I'm there, I say a prayer, and I just kind of, I'm talking to God. I'm like, God, like, I got to figure this out. Like, I got to know, like, and I don't need to know now. Like, I get that you're not going to come probably and like give me a vision, but like, I got to feel like a knowing about this so that I can feel confident to, again, like raise my kids in this and like know what I'm going to do. And what I felt from God, like that day was that God said to me, you know what you respect so much about Heber J. Grant, this man that you know of, you read about and all these things, and you know what you respect so much about kind of like all these historic figures that were family pioneers of the church. And I said that they were willing to give their life for what they believed. Like they were willing to leave everything, that they were willing to walk across the plains, that, you know, like they had these great sacrifices for what they believed. And so what I felt God told me that day was like, well, would you be willing to do the same? Would you be willing to put your life at risk the same way they were? And I answered, like, I would like to say yes, you know, like I would like to. I don't know that I would or not. And essentially the answer I got back was like, well, what if I told you to walk away? Would you be willing to do it? And for the first time ever, because I had asked that question when the guy asked me about the Muslim thing on my mission, I also asked myself the question, if God didn't tell me to be here, if he told me to leave, would I leave? And when I prayed that prayer on my mission, the answer that I knew in my heart was no.
Wow.
If God told me to leave, I would not leave. I wouldn't be able to. And I wouldn't have the strength to, the courage to. And I remember what I said in my head was, well, if he came here in person, and then a lot of people will say that, and I'm like, well, the funny thing is he didn't come here in person to tell me to be here. So like, I'm not giving the same weight to the decision. So anyway, so I'd asked that question. I knew the answer was no. And so that day when God told me, like, if I told you to walk away, would you? For the first time ever in my whole life, my actual answer was yes. It's like, yeah, I would. I'd be willing to do it. And I got a very clear prompt. I want you to walk away. I called my wife and I said, hey, I'm going to leave the church.
Who the is this guy?
Fair question. Sorry, comment section, but I'm not an industry plant. And I'm not CIA. I directed the video production for Mr. Beast, where my work has about 10 billion views. And now, my team and I produce shows just like this for founders all over the country. Listen, if you're a founder and you've built a real business, you are the best kept secret in your industry. So if you're done with being invisible outside of your company, book a call with us on the link below. My team and I will show you exactly how a show like this could change everything for you and your business. All right, back to the show.
And she knew that I was like wrestling with that and stuff. And she, I can't remember her exact response, but she was supportive. I called my parents right after because I just said, I can't sit on this. I have to like do something. So I called my parents. I let them know. I called my bishop and I said, hey, I know I have a calling and I want to make sure that gets taken care of. So I'll make sure there's someone on Sunday to fulfill our calling. But I just want you to let you know, I'm going to be, leaving the church. And he was like, what? Like, he's just totally blindsided. So when I left, It wasn't like this. It was like kind of like one day to the next. And a couple months later, I was really struggling. And I was like, what you had said of your religion, this religion, and I think any religion, but any real like strong faith, like Seventh-day Adventist or Jehovah's Witness or LDS or like any faith where really just like kind of like encircles your whole life and your culture.
High commitment faiths. Your whole lens of everything. Every single thing is through that. Like the way I would look at this water bottle is like, it's like from like core intelligence. Like every part of everything comes through this lens. And dude, it felt like I just got thrown in the middle of the ocean and had no bearing. It was like I was drowning and I had no place to grab onto because all of this, like this whole lens had been stripped away. So now everything I look at, I'm having to ask the question of like, what do I think about that? What do I believe about that? And in that place, I really gained this very strong appreciation for the rules and for the standards and the structure. So man, having some fences and some structure and some things is really valuable because without it, like, dude, you're out here just in an ocean. Winging it.
Yeah. Like there's this value to thousands of years of men and women before us who've kind of learned some lessons and said, yeah, hey, like there's a proper way to marriage. There's a proper way to do these things. And you can mess around and figure out, you can F around and find out, or you can listen to us. And so I gained this like really deep respect for the standards and the rules, which is, maybe a part of the church I had a problem with was like all these check boxes and this, but I'm like, man, there's a reason this stuff's there. So, that at that point I thought, well, maybe I should take my kids to church. and just have them be a part of the system so they get the standards and the structure. But then I'll kind of like tell them I don't really like believe it's all true, but like, hey, this stuff's good. So we actually started going back to church for a little bit, but I let the bishop know, hey, just so you know, I have not changed my perspective, but we would like to come and be a part of it. And I was paying tithing and whatever. And I still pay tithing, just now not to the church because I believe in that as a principle of life. But anyway.
Love that.
So anyway, long story short is that I thought that I could live inside the church system and keep the standards without necessarily believing the whole thing. But I personally, and I think a lot of people can do that, and if you feel good about that, totally do that. I'm not trying to say, because I know a lot of people do that, and I'm not trying to knock it. For me personally, I felt so out of integrity there, I just couldn't do it. Like when I was sitting in an elders quorum or a church class and we're having a discussion, I could be a part of the discussion because like I still have a perspective, I still have faith in God, like all these things. But when I would give a comment, it was like it was getting filtered in to like fit into the group, and I was like, like it doesn't quite feel right.
Whoa.
And I just was like, I don't think I have enough like integrity as a human to be here and not end up pretending to be one of these people. And then I also don't ever want my kid to be like, have to think about his dad. Like, yeah, my dad doesn't like really believe the whole thing like Jared's dad or like my friend's dad, or like, man, I kind of wish my dad was like that guy's dad where he's like all in. My dad's kind of not all in. Oh, my dad can't technically give me a priesthood blessing. And so I started like, I just realized I was like, okay, I don't think this system like plays out where I can just kind of halfway it. I either need to be all in or all out. And I was like, I felt like God told me to be out. So that's the direction I'm going to go. So ultimately for us, it's really come to like, is it possible to give our kids those standards in our own way? So every morning we have a little like family huddle where we talk about our goals. We say a prayer together as a family. We talk about our day. Every week we have a little kind of like family Sunday church thing. And so it's not perfect. Like I don't have the answer fully. I do think there's community that's important. So we're trying to find like how do we create some sort of church community, but I also don't want to put them in a hard box where it's like this is true and that's false and everyone else is wrong. So we're still trying to figure it out. But I think for me, I agree. And I'm like, yes, standards are super important. Giving structure and some fences to push up against and guide a child or a human is super important. Without them, we can get way off in the weeds. And I didn't want to put them in a system that said it's this or nothing. And especially if I knew I didn't fully believe in that. So that's where we're at right now. And we're, evolving, and we talk about it probably at least every week, me and my wife, like, where's this going? How are we going to raise them? Like, so it's just, I think it's a lot of intentionality. And the cool part about it is it's allowed us not to outsource it. I think had we just been casually parts of members of the church, we probably wouldn't have had any of these discussions. It would have been like, yeah, the church is teaching them.
Yeah, it's
God.
not that deep. So it's like, whatever. Not thinking that thoroughly about it.
Yeah. Yeah. The church is letting them know, like, yeah, you're going to go on a mission. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And yeah, like we'll kind of come in and support and say, yeah, totally. Rather than actually intentionally, like, what do we really need to make sure that they believe and understand about the world and God and who they are and all those things. So
one of the things I've had to observe in my own, like, assessment of like, why does this feel so jarring at times? Like years going, I got these kids, I have to figure out exactly how they're going to get raised.
Yeah.
Part of what I think in the process of being in that ocean, it's very nice to have everything laid out for you. Mm-hmm. And I kind of describe it as the Candyland board. Mm-hmm. We had the pre-earth life, we were intelligences. And it's like, I love teaching the plan of salvation to people that had never heard it before. Because as far as they were concerned, they just kind of woke up one day on earth. Yeah. They have no idea what the hell any of this is for. There's no purpose and there's no objective.
Yeah.
And so people, when they have neither of those things, there's no point. Mm. And so I really liked providing that point for people.
Yeah, like this is the reason we're here.
It rules. I'm like, here, sit down, check this out. Boom, lay it out. Here's the Candyland board. So we started over here and we came down here so we can live and grow and have experiences, struggle, have time to prepare to meet God by living here and going through the highs and lows, the trials, and you endure to the end, and that's what you do. And then after that, I got another Candyland stage for you. You're going to go over here, down the licorice slide, and then you're going to go into this little judgment area, and you're going to get a gold medal, and it's great. I liked having that.
Yeah.
And then one day I went, I don't know if I can do that. I don't know if that's... So then to get rid of the Candyland board is to be in the middle of the ocean with nothing to hold on to, but probably the most aligned so far internally.
Yeah, you want to know what God told me when I felt like I was drowning in the ocean?
Yeah.
So it was early in the morning. I was on the stair stepper doing my morning cardio, and I was talking to God, and I have a little process. I journal back and forth to God and some journaling, and I said to God that morning, I said, God, like, I'm drowning. It feels like I am drowning. And I said, I literally wrote out, I'd rather be the 15-year-old me whose dad was in prison, whose mom had died, who had lost everything, going through that, than be this guy with all that I have and feel like how I feel right now, just drowning in this ocean. That was the intensity of what I felt. And I said, and I felt like you told me to do this. So like, what the hell is going on? like, you know, help me out.
Jeez.
And I said, why is this so hard? And what God said back to me was, when you had the church, you did not need me.
Oh my God.
And I kind of responded almost like that seemed blasphemous even to hear that from God. And I said, what do you mean? Like, he said, well, when you had a question, where would you go? And I thought about it. I thought, well, you know, I would kind of go to what does the church believe on that? What does the prophet say? Or what does the bishop say? Or what does even the Bible, what does other men say about this? You know, what's the policy on that? You know, if I asked about marriage, if I asked about going to school, like part of the only real reason I went to college was because like the church said education is important. I interpreted that as college, or people interpreted that as college. So I'm like, I have to go to college. Like, it's a part of the system. And he was like, you know, you had these fences that kept you safe and you didn't need me. And now you kind of need me. I'm all you got. Like, wow. You don't have any of that stuff. So I gained this massive respect for all the rules and the standards that put structure in our lives. But I also realized that there had to be something deeper behind those, which was like a true relationship to God, where we weren't just solely relying on the fence, because you could sit in the corral forever and be safe, but the world is out there in the mountains. Like, as a horse, like, you know, you could keep your horse safe, make sure it never gets hurt, and keep it in the corral. You can keep your kids safe and keep them in the basement. But like, the whole experience is out there in the world, and we're going to need more than just rules and policies. We're going to need principles and core foundational beliefs to keep us safe in the mountains. We're going to need God to keep us safe in the mountains, not just rules and fences to keep us safe. And so that was the beauty I found in that moment was, oh my gosh, for the first time in my life, I really need God. I imagine if there's a Mormon listening to this podcast, if they still stayed on this long to listen to two quote unquote ex-Mormons, they have this thought. I remember having this thought. That's how I know they have this thought of hearing me say how painful it is to not have the church. They go, see, I'm so grateful I have it. That's why I love having it. That's why I love having the rules. That's why I love having it. They say it like, man, isn't it so good that we get to just raise our kids in the church? We don't have to worry about all the stuff he's talking about, worrying about. And while on the one hand, I agree, I also don't know that that's as great of a thing as people want to make it out to be. Mm-hmm. Are you missing out on the whole relationship because you just have these rules to fall back on, and you get to outsource God in a way to someone else, to something else, to a set of rules, to a book of policies? And not everyone in every church has done that, but I do think it's a real risk that you run into when you've just kind of like folded into it without really analyzing, is this really, really, really me and God in this? Or is this kind of like what I kind of was raised in?
You have to. It's earning it.
Yeah.
There was someone that said, what a blessing it is to get to the end of your life covered in scars. Can you imagine living any other way? And it's like there's something in the pain and the growth of it. And I don't know if in the real time process of figuring out what I'm supposed to believe, what I'm supposed to make of all this, I imagine that's part of the journey. You know, at 27 years old, that was the first time I ever, quote unquote, put a toe out of line. I tried getting married. I was like, I went to BYU. This is why you go here. You're supposed to get married. Well, I didn't get married. I was like, I want my money back. And I had this
refund.
Yeah, it's literally what they said, you know, get a degree and a wife. I didn't get the wife. And so I was like, well, what am I doing any of this for? And then I had my best friend at the time, we'd been living together for like 2 years. We'd gone and knocked doors together and traveled all over. And he came out to me one day. He said, "You're the second person I've told." And he's like, "The reason I can't tell anyone is, of course, like it's a big no-no at BYU."
100%.
In fact, it came out later. There was this a list, like a running list that the faculty, I don't know what department, I think it was the honor code department. They were keeping an active list of students with suspected same-sex attraction.
Wow.
And if they were able to corroborate that this person had acted on it, they could get them out of the school.
That's great.
So they could get a heterosexual student in, someone that's going to follow the honor code, which is what they
Wow.
signed up to do. And at that point, I had been so about it.
Yeah.
Like I knew you could find something, you could overturn a stone and find someone like doing a party in Provo. I didn't want any of that. I had agreed to the rules.
Yeah.
I was dogmatic, but it was rooted in no one's twisting my arm. This is me in honor, fulfilling this thing I agreed to.
Yeah.
And up until that point, it's just always how I had done things. But then my friend tells me, he's like, I can't, you're the second person I've told because I almost ended my life again last night. And I was like,
gosh.
Why am I doing any of this? This is like the best human I know. And he, through basically no fault of his own, has this proclivity. He didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
If you'd given him a pill and it would go away, he'd take it in a second.
Yeah.
But he felt less than, he felt less deserving. He felt unloved by God, by the church, by the school. He felt like he didn't deserve any of it. And it just rang my bell because I think I'd just come so close to that loss, didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I was like, why am I doing any of this, man? So for the first time, we were like, let's just get out of Provo, man. Like we moved up to Salt Lake. We're crazy. We're so out of here now. Had wine for the first time. I tried different things. But every one of those also served as a lesson. And to you mentioned earlier, like some of these things, like there's probably like an optimal path through life. And over the thousands of years of wise men telling you, hey, this is probably the best way to do this.
Yeah.
If you fuck around, you will find out.
Yeah.
Generally, here's the compiled list of billions of people that have lived.
Yeah.
Here are the through lines. This is kind of the most optimal, the apex of the turn, right?
Yeah.
In spite of my faith journey, I've found that apex that they've offered is actually still kind of true.
Yeah.
Like I tried weed for the first time. And then that turned into a huge chapter in my life that it probably would have been better if I'd never ultimately smoked weed.
Yeah.
Because it was years of it. And then like all these like big, creator environments that I was in, it was like in order to fit in, you have to smoke with everybody. And then I found myself in these like depressive cycles. I found myself dependent on it. They call it wake and baked, where you have to wake up in the morning, you got to light up, and you're maintaining this high all day because you get used to the volume on life being brought to a very tolerable level. Yeah. But life is out here.
Yeah.
And so if you've only got the tolerance for this, you're missing all of this.
Yeah.
And I realized it was like maybe that principle in the word of wisdom, maybe it was for that.
Yeah.
There's a lesson on the other side of every door I ultimately opened. And I think I'm okay sometimes not opening those doors.
Yeah.
I don't need to try cocaine to know. It's like, I guarantee I would love that.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to open that door because I would have to go through the lesson of whatever I was meant to teach. I did learn a lot from this experience with cannabis.
Yeah.
And those lessons have shaped who I am today.
Yeah.
I don't know if I needed that one.
Yeah.
There's probably something to be learned. Like if someone goes and like hasn't, it's like you'll be a well-rounded person at the end of this, I don't know, personality definer, like character building arc.
Yeah.
You're like, did I need that?
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing to reconcile ultimately, where it's like a lot of the philosophies, rules, I think they're still pretty good.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
I just don't know that the LLC, this one specific pipeline,
501(c)(3).
Yeah, that's right. Because they're a nonprofit with a $100 billion rainy day fund and diverse and the second largest landowner in the United States. But whatever. I don't think that I need that. Yeah. But I'm also like kind of wondering when I have to hold that child in my arms. I want him to have the clearest scaffolding. And am I the most qualified to teach that? I don't know, man. Because we also need more people. Like what I know is like
the community.
You need a community. Yeah. So how are you qualifying that? Because it's like, like my community default would be just the people in my ward.
Yeah.
So what's kind of like your heuristics for the people that you want to raise your kids around in this community?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, you mentioned Elena Cardone and Grant Cardone being here. Me and my wife went on the 10X cruise with them this last year, and my whole purpose of going was I was like, I want to see them with their kids because I think they've more intentionally curated that around their kids than anyone I've seen, at least publicly display that. And I wanted to talk to them about it. I wanted to see it in person, and it's so powerful, like just the way they've done that. And that's what I want to create for my kids. And it's like, how does it happen? It's like, first, it's going to be my friends. Like, who do we choose to hang out with? That's who they're going to see and be around. So it's like, what neighborhood are we going to choose to live in? What people are we going to invite to be around and have around? Like, those are the first core people. And there's certain family members that it's like, I don't necessarily want my kid around them. So like, respectfully, like, we're just not going to spend a lot of time with them. First of all, it's just looking at that, like, who are my friends and the people around me. And I think the most important thing for me, when I look at the people that you grow up around and who had a good impact and who had a negative impact, there's so many people I had to overcome their comments about me to become who I am today.
Really?
Like, why would you do that? That's dumb. Like, who do you think you are? Like, oh, like, you're Mr. Self-Development now, or like you're like, like, just like all those little comments and like those jabs.
Yes, dude.
And I thought, like, okay, all of those things that have sat in the back of my head, who were the people that placed those there? And how do I make sure my kids get as few of those as possible? So I can just make it as easy, not as easy on them as possible, but as easy to just pursue growth and a life they want, without, like, every one of those felt like a demon I had to, like a dragon I had to go slay, which was unnecessary. Like, it was just a stupid belief that some teacher planted there of, oh, like, dude, you don't know how to pay attention, so you're never going to be able to be successful. Like, oh, you think you can build a business and you won't have to focus? Like, just all these little comments that I had to, like, overcome. And I'm like, man, how can I just make sure my kid doesn't get that? So it's like, I really want to be intentional about who their teachers are, like who they're around. Like, we have a nanny and we just lost our last nanny, so we're rehiring another one. And it's like a huge part to me is like, hey, what do you believe? Like, tell me about your goals. And it's like, I don't want someone who believes that this world is evil and that like people with money are evil. And like, I want them to have like positive beliefs. So, there's a lot of intention on that. And then also, like, if it's going to be a church community that we're around, like, I want to see the people. And like, it doesn't matter to me how much money they make, but it matters to me how they view the world and their beliefs. And what are they going to, what are those like jabs that they'll make at my kids? Cause everyone's going to make them, like, like just how we are as humans, like being funny. But I'm like, I want my kids to get as few of those like false beliefs planted in their brains as possible.
I think more people are going to realize there's just a big trend right now where people are not having families. They're not interested in having kids, and they're not interested in sacrificing the way that their life's going. Because what they would have to put on that altar is like going out every weekend or whatever the thing is that they're saying, that is more important to me than fulfilling my biological imperative. Have you felt like you've like given up any kind of freedoms as a result of having a parent?
That's a great question.
Because like, look, we can talk about like the money and like our business strategies and all this stuff, but it's like I don't think there's anything more important than developing and creating the next generation. And dude, in the last 20 years, it fell off a cliff. We're now below replacement rate. And it was forecasted. People saw it in South Korea, in Japan, and those are usually leading indicators of how things will go in the U.S., both in technological advancements and then societal, our population growth and scale. And South Korea is now, I think it's 0.6 for every 2 people dying.
Wow.
So it's just the population density is just going to completely dry up. And we're going to run into the same thing here in the U.S. So it's like my impetus in doing this is obviously to bring more people incredible conversations from like brilliant minds, but I've got to get more people to understand there's nothing more important than having kids.
Yeah.
So what have you lost from doing this?
What have I lost? Well, I didn't go to a rave last year for New Year's or the year before, or the year before.
Coachella, bro.
I didn't take any 5-MeO or what. Dude, it's like, the truth is, like, there's a part of me that's thought about all those things. Like, man, like, it would be fun, especially like, okay, like we started having kids, we had no money. And so I started making money. And so there's this part of me that goes like, man, this would be kind of fun if we were making this money, I didn't have kids. Like, we didn't have all this responsibility and this weight. But dude, it's like when you really sit back and look at what am I giving up versus what am I getting, it's what I would say to someone is if you would speak out loud, the quote unquote thing you would be giving up, and listen to that back, you'd probably either laugh at yourself, cringe at yourself, or at least give yourself the advice of like, come on, that's kind of ridiculous. And all of the things that I've given up are like of no value beyond the moment, right? Like beyond that night at that club that I essentially have given up, like beyond that night, there was no value that I was going to get out of that. Like there's no thing that I missed out on because of that. And dude, the thing is like, you can still enjoy an amazing life with kids. It doesn't mean you have to have your kids with you all the time. Like me and my wife are like, we take a quarterly trip away from the kids, and that's amazing time for us. Like that we get to connect and have fun and party if we want to party. Like we can do whatever we want, but you know, in some ways it's like sweeter because it's this thing that we get to like enjoy and connect on. And then we get to go to like Great Wolf's Lodge and take our kids and just like be on, you know, and just have like such a good time in that place too. So like we can go from such different diverse experiences. And like I said, to me, life really is about progress and growth. The only real joy I've found in life is in progress and growth. And I always have people tell me like, dude, when's it going to be enough? Like I had one of my friends from high school ask me that, like, bro, don't you like feel like you make enough money? You're doing enough. Like you feel like you ever just kind of like you'll ever just get like comfortable and I was just like maybe financially, like it doesn't mean I'll have to like make more money forever, but I'm like, dude, like you just explained damnation to me. Like you just explained like Satan's like whole place he's trying to take us, which is a death to progress, a damnation, being damned, being stopped, a stop of progress. So to me, the whole joy equation is keep growing. And if you want to grow in this life, I'm telling you, like having kids will force more growth than you could ever imagine in your life. If you choose like that you want to be a good parent, you can choose to be a shitty parent and you know, you can go that route. But if you're someone who wants to be a good parent, it's going to force growth in incredible ways that you never, ever, ever will find in this world without kids. Like, I just don't think there's any other way to recreate those moments. Entrepreneurship won't do it. Having dogs won't do it. Like, you know, those can force growth in little ways or in different ways. Like, you know, you can become a badass negotiator in business, but like, dude, you need to go negotiate with a 4-year-old. It's a different game. It pulls out a different part of you to not yell at them. And, you know, like this, it's just a whole different world that you're living in that it mirrors back to you and confronts the worst parts of you, and makes you like confront them. So, yeah.
So being in that seat, do you ever, if I'm trying to imagine me living your life or me when I end up having kids, I feel like I'm going to be so obsessed with those kids. I'm going to want to know everything about, I'm going to be excited at every like worm they find. I'm like, dude, let's talk about that worm.
Yeah.
And then I kind of zoom out and I go, how did, you know, my own father, to a degree, it seemed like he was pretty interested in for like a few years. And then just like other stuff came up.
Yeah.
And I go, you know, no one's perfect, but there's a part of me in the back of my mind that goes, I worry that one day like other stuff is going to come up.
Yeah.
Because apparently I wasn't captivating enough to like stay locked in and like want to like be pretty involved in my life. And I will set the rules of the road. I'm just a functionally different person. So I really don't think it's going to go that way. But like, how do you think parents or fathers kind of go that path where they just kind of stop caring or they do decouple? Like, is it just their own shit? That's what I had to learn is largely it's just their own shit. It's
actually just everything in our life. So it's what happens in marriage too. Like it's not that your wife becomes uninteresting. It's just we become uninterested. The way our brain works is we're like a thermostat. And if, you know, you open up the big door and it's hot outside for a moment, it gets hot inside, you feel that heat come in, but then the thermostat adjusts and runs, the AC runs, and then the temperature comes back down. Or if you open the door and it's winter, the temperature drops for a second, but then the heater kicks on, and the thermostat controls a baseline in our life. So we'll always get back to baseline. I remember when we moved into the house we live in right now, it's unreal. Dream neighborhood. It was like the pinnacle, I thought, of like 10-year goal to move into this neighborhood. When I put on our vision board like 3 years ago, we move into it like a year later into this beautiful home. You know, it was like, it's just unbelievable. And I remember moving in and I thought, like, this will never get old. I remember I would wake up and I would walk out of my master bedroom into this hallway that's just like oversized, obnoxious hallway. And I would be like, man, I will never get sick of walking down this hallway to my office to like have my morning studies. I'll just never get used to this. Dude, I woke up this morning, I walked down that hallway, went to my office, had my morning study. I didn't look at the walls. I didn't feel anything about the house. My thermostat, it could have been my 800 square foot house me and my wife lived in when we got married. It made no difference. So we do that with everything. And so, you know, the real question is like, how do we keep those things interesting? And your kids, like, unfortunately, the same thing will happen, dude. Like, they'll come and you'll be like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And then they'll hit a new stage and it kind of is like resets the thermostat. And you go like, I got to coach my son's basketball team for the first time last year. And it was like this new thermostat of exciting. And I would go buy all the basketball stuff. And when we're like all in and this is so fun. And then he got into racing with me because I like love racing cars. And so he's like riding the go-kart and it was so fun. It was so exciting. But then it kind of like normalizes out. And so, you know, it's the same thing in marriage. It's the same thing in business. It's the same thing with money. Like, we will normalize out to like what we're used to. We have to find a way to instill habits and intentionality that are there regardless of the temperature. Because like you will find your kid not exciting on the day when it's like, dude, it's the 400th poopy diaper and they're yelling and they're screaming and they're throwing stuff at you. You're just like, I'm just so uninterested in anything to do with this kid right now. And there has to be some sort of like standard you hold that goes beyond that to say, and tonight we're going to do the affirmations. We're going to read a book and whatever that thing is. Right. And reset back to realize, like, to the kid, like, reading that book, that moment was the only thing that exists. So, you know, it's more intentionality. Like, that's the answer. I hate that it's so cliche, but it's like, that is the answer. It's like, there has to be intentionality. It will not happen naturally. We will all end up just like your dad if we just left to hope that our kid is interesting enough to please us. Like, this doesn't exist. Like, dude, you could have been the most interesting kid in the world. It wouldn't have mattered. Like, your dad didn't have the habits of intentional connection with you. Like, it wasn't your fault, or it was just those things didn't exist. So his thermostat got set to like Brady's Brady, and like, you could have been the most interesting, wild kid ever. You could have been like jumping up and down, going off the walls, and that would have become normal. You could have been like monotone, do nothing. That would have been normal. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we even have those people in our lives. Like, to some degree, even your dad texting you that text, at some point it becomes less dramatic and it just is what it is. It's less exciting and crazy as the first time he sent you a text about disappearing. So, you know, we also do it as a safety mechanism. It's a great thing that we do it because it's how we also deal with suffering. But it is something we have to intentionally create those connections. The same thing in marriage and everything.
Yeah, I love this because you said one time, you're like, when I made my first million, I thought everything would change. And then it was like dope for like 27 minutes. It's like Taylor Swift talks about, like, all she wanted to get was a Grammy. That was it. That was everything. And pre-Grammy, it's like, that's all you think about. Then you get it. It's awesome for like 17 minutes. Your synapses and the neurons are firing. Oh my gosh. And then on the other side of it, it's like, what is it? The Olympian gold medal syndrome, you know?
Yep.
We as humans, I think we're just really good at evolving to wherever that thermostat is. So we're really fast-paced and adaptive, but then that adjusts to basically everything.
Yep.
And that's what I've kind of worried. I really appreciate you saying, like, you have to be intentional and find either new things to create novelty or have a routine that structures around it so that you're finding new things to appreciate, or just expecting it fully so that it doesn't catch you by surprise. And you're like, oh no, I guess like I'm just now indifferent. You're like, no. Like, you can create these things constantly. In the process of adaptation, you've obviously had this like generational run with your business. What are some of the adaptations that you personally have started to implement that you have seen contribute to where you're at now? Like, you, like, as a person, obviously, like, you're super regimented, bro. Every morning I see your thing and it's like, he got up at like 4 again. He's in his cold plunge. So I know that those things ritually, but like, outside of that, like, what are some of the things adaptively that you have seen lead to the Braven Grant today?
So, dude, it's really, to me, so simple. When I break down, I look backwards at how I've achieved everything that's been achieved. And, you know, all glory to God, but like, disciplines that I think have led to it, if I have any part in credit for it, is that I say this all the time. The reason people don't have what they want in life is they don't even know what they want. So the first thing you got to do is like figure out what the heck I want. She wanted the Grammy. She wanted the thing. So it's like, if you know what you want, and then you will at least every quarter sit down and look at your life and make adjustments to go towards the place that you want to go and create growth. Again, like this, the best way to never have the thermostat, cause you to just be depressed and hate your life is just keep growing. Like every quarter, like go, it's like, dude, I'm going to make the standard of my household 75 degrees and then 80 degrees and then 85 degrees and 90 degrees. Obviously, like, the analogy kind of breaks down.
Yeah, we're in Arizona.
Yeah. But my point being is like, I'm going to keep just raising the standard of what my thermostat can hold, like can handle. And the way you do that is just growth, right? So like growth is truly like the actual path to joy and happiness. And so, if for me, the thing that really ritualistically, if I really like break it down, like win the day is really important, all those things. But every quarter I look at my life, every quarter I look at my business. We have a quarterly offsite for my business, and me and my wife, quarterly, like look at our life and our goals and what we're doing. And then I also look at it weekly, and I also try and look at it daily. But the cool thing about if you really set the quarterly, I always say is I'm like to my team, I'm like, we can never get more than a quarter off, because we're always going to come back and we got like a 2-3 day offsite. We're going to reset and rebuild, get our focus back and rebuild the plan. And where do we need to grow? Where do we need to fix things and go? So we can never get more than a quarter off. And in the last 6 years of business, we've never gone more than a quarter off. We've had a quarter where we did not grow, but we've never had more than a quarter where we didn't grow.
Wow.
We've grown year over year on average like 70%, and almost doubled every year for like 6 years in a row, because like we never get more than a quarter off. And really, we also have a weekly meeting, and we really never get more than a week off. And same thing with my wife. So it's like we can get a few days off, but then we get to that weekly meeting and it's like, man, we don't feel connected, or what's going on, and we're able to like reset, and we look at our goals, and hey, we set these goals for the quarter. Okay, like where are we at with them? Oh, you know what? I didn't get to the gym every day this week. Like I'm gonna reset on that one. Oh, I didn't been sending my daily messages to my wife. Like maybe that's contributing to us not feeling connected. Let me reset on that. So to me, it's so simple, because it's like decide what you want, and then if you quarterly and weekly start looking at your life, to me it's almost like, how could you not get there? But the easy thing is we just go month after month, year after year, and you look at people's lives. And I always ask my team when we're doing like trainings or setting goals as a team, because we set goals personally as a team as well. And I just like, how many people do you know in your life that are probably a decade out since they looked at this stuff? It's like everyone's got their hand up of probably 10 people in their life they know. And that's how it happens. Like you just go a quarter and a year and 5 years, and you don't look at like, what do I want my relationship with my sons to be? What do I want my relationship with my wife to be? So as simple as it is, to me, that's the most important ritual of all. It's just take that inventory at least quarterly.
So you're regularly taking your entire life, you're laying it out on the table and running the microscope over it, because you have nothing to hide. You're hiding nothing from yourself, which is so funny, man, because like I have this tendency, I have this bias where my proximity bias leads me to believe that most people on this world surely think this way. Or like have this, they're comfortable being with themselves. Like obviously everyone's doing the work all the time. They're doing the shadow work, they're reflecting, they're going, taking radical ownership. And then you kind of zoom out, you go, dude, like no one's doing that.
No.
We are the few.
If you ask someone their goals, dude, no one could tell you what their goals are. What do you want? Every interview I have, what do you want in the next 3 years? Make a little bit more money, or they have no idea. I'm like, cool, yeah, good luck. How are you ever going to figure that out? If you don't even know what you want, how are you going to get it? It sounds so stupid, but I'm like, if you don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? And then if you don't take inventory of it, how are you ever going to figure it out? So, to me, it all does start with like revealing yourself. So it's like, you have to get really honest about who you are and what. So actually, when I set goals, me and my wife, when we set goals, it starts with, we make a huge list of everything that we're frustrated about, everything we're not liking right now, everything that's bothering us, everything that's like, it's really like a not fun process, because there's like all this like gross stuff in our life, anything that just feels off. And then we look at it and we're like, okay, cool. Like those are all warning lights of what we do want. And then we kind of like either flip them, or like either it's like, okay, if I don't want that, then I want the opposite. That's like an easy one. So it'd be like, I don't like, I have like no debt, but like I had like debt on like my wife's car, and I'm like, I don't like that. So the opposite would be like no debt on the wife's car. Like, you know, like let me just make sure I get that paid off, so it's not sitting there in the back of my head, or whatever the thing is. Or it could be like, I don't like that. I don't feel connected to my wife during the week, and we like connect on the weekend during date night, but during the week it's kind of like we're disconnected. So I'm like, okay, what would be the opposite of that? Like, hey, like feeling connected to my wife on a Wednesday afternoon. And it'd be like, okay, cool. What if we just did a Wednesday afternoon date lunch? So it's like, you know what I mean? You could just easily start creating like what you want out of the warning lights of all the things you don't want. But most people never take the inventory to say, this part of my life is not working or sucks. And when you don't look at it, then you never create the other side. And so that's like literally my process. Like, what do you not like about your life? Essentially, what would be the opposite? That's probably pretty much what you want. And then build it out into goals quarterly, and your life gets really good over time.
It's like the reason most people don't have these sorts of things is they're not willing to be honest with themselves. You're like one of the most honest people I have ever met. You like lay it all out, and it's one of the coolest things. It is a core part of why you're crushing.
Yeah.
And dude, there's like so many more people are just running.
Yeah.
They're running from themselves. They're running from accountability. They're running from any kind of ownership or inventory. And they think that that's because there's pain on this side of acknowledging this stuff. But it's like, you're either going to choose the pain now, or you're going to choose the pain gets chosen later by default. So what is it? It's like, you know, choose, what is the quote? It's like,
choose easy life, or like make easy choices and a hard life, or hard choices and easy life. Like what, you know.
And it's so true.
Yeah.
It's like, it's all of these like principles. And I like to think some of it came from being raised in kind of this like religious capacity, where it's like you have to take inventory of your sins.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, okay, cool. So I can self-awareness enough to say this was a mistake. I chose this, and now I have to repent from this. And I feel like, dude, like if I zoom out and I look at the conditions on the ground globally, there's so much conflict. Nobody gets along. And, you know, hopefully we're spinning things down with Iran. You know, hopefully Ukraine and Russia figure it out. It's like, how many could the aliens come and visit us sooner when we get to be like a type 3 civilization, or whatever it is we're on the Kardashev scale that we're aspiring to be, if more people just own their shit?
Yeah, we have a really bad habit. When I really committed to the idea of tell the fucking truth, this is like the hardest commitment ever, because every day you're confronted with, am I going to actually tell someone the truth right now? Like it's just endless. It's never ending. We're always lying. Like we're lying like almost, there's just so many, it just keeps going deeper if you're really willing to look at it. And most people are like, I'm not a liar. So they never even look at it.
Yeah, I just exaggerate a little bit.
Yeah,
that's
like,
why.
Exactly. It's like, it just goes so deep. But, you know, it's so, one of the things that I've learned that's really hard is when, if me and my wife get in a fight, and she has a part to play in the fight, for sure, right? Well, the easy thing for me to do is not confront my part, because that would seem to not make sure she knows about her part, right? So it'd be like rather than me being like, yeah, I was totally being a dick right there, and I was like being stubborn and not willing to listen to her, I just go like, well, babe, you came at me with that. Like you came at me from out of nowhere. Even though I know in the back of my head, yeah, I chose to be stubborn and not like take that in or whatever. Like I know my part, but I'm like, I'm not going to say my part because she had a part. And we have this inability to just own and accept our side as this is the truth for me, and let their side be their side. So like the whole world is that. It's like, well, yeah, but look at what they did to us. Look what they did to us. It's like, okay, cool. Got it. Can we talk about that separately? Look at what you did to me. So I really try with my wife, if she comes to me with something I did, we only talk about that in that conversation. And in my head, I start going, okay, but you did this and she did this and she should have said it this way and I wish she would have done it this way. I really, really, really try hard to be like, let me inventory that. I can bring that up at a later time to have that discussion. If that's something that really bothers me that I want her to change, we can talk about it differently. Right now, she just brought this to me, and she's right. I was checked out yesterday when her family was over, and you know I don't need a spring on her that she didn't tell me about it, or that you know I wish she would have just had some respect for my hard day or whatever. I can tell her that later if we want to have that conversation and that's still important to me. Let me just address that I did have a part to play in this and own that truth. And usually what happens when I do that, we get to like the other side of the conversation and then she starts going, yeah, and you know what? Like, I probably should have told you that they were coming, and I probably wasn't very respectful of the fact that you just got done with a long day and you came home and all my nieces and nephews were running around the house being crazy and the house was a disaster and it was loud and you were probably just like, man, I just want to like breathe for a second in my own home. And I you know, I probably could have given you some more like understanding for that, and I apologize for that. I didn't have to say anything.
Nothing.
But had I like reacted with that, so that to me is like, it's the willingness to just own the truth without needing someone else to own theirs, without having to like force someone else to do it and just be like, yeah, this is true. You're right. Yeah, I was kind of being arrogant when I said that. Like it just diffuses like all of the energy around like topics, and then someone else, it's like almost like this weird negotiation tactic, like of like they're almost forced to then like fold on their side, but it wasn't the intention to have that happen. It was just like own the truth, and it just kind of like diffuses all of that energy. So that's, I'm not perfect at it. Like, dude, it's the hardest thing ever to constantly tell the truth. But I think that's the speed of outcomes in my life is 100% connected to the speed at which I'm willing to tell the truth. Speed at which I'm willing to tell an employee the truth. The speed at which I'm willing to say, yeah, we don't do it that way. You know, if I wait till the 10th meeting that they've done something wrong versus the first meeting I saw it, there's just a speed at which we're going to get a result or not get a result. And I've just gotten better at doing it faster. I'm still not perfect. Sometimes I wait till the 4th meeting or I'm like, I don't want to offend them or whatever. And then, you know, and so there's still a delay, but it's like the faster I get at telling the truth, the faster results come. So
it's a batting average, right?
Yeah.
You know, like if you're going in expecting 100%, you're going to get bummed.
Yeah. There's no way you're going to just be 100% perfect truth teller. But if you can like start registering it, catching it, and then like correcting it, your life will just move so fast. And then you'll like, every year you're around people that are like, dude, holy crap, like you're completely different than I saw you a year ago. It's like, yeah. I got real about the fact that I was getting fat. Fat, or like whatever, right? Like I changed that part of me because I owned that truth, you know?
There's no damn world where you were fat, brothers. There's no shots.
Yeah.
It's okay. So with that discipline, with that regiment, quick pivoting, moving forward with speed, honesty, integrity, velocity, to tell the fucking truth.
Yep.
What are your next 3 years? Like explain how it looks in your purview. If it's you have so much design, what does that sound like?
Oh, I'll tell you. Yeah. I just decided this morning.
Really? Oh shit! Breaking news.
Yeah, we were considering selling a big portion of our company, and I had an offer yesterday to have the money wired into escrow for $15 million. That I would have taken the majority of that money directly, and this morning I let them know that we would not be taking that money, and that we're gonna go on to build a $100 million company and probably exit at that point. And so that's what the next 3 years look like. So I'm gonna hopefully share like wisdom and what lessons with other men as well along the way, because I feel passionate and excited about that. But it's not like, to me, it's not this big business thing for me to go make money. I have this group, Committed Men. I will get paid for it. I'm not doing it for free because like I just value my time, but it's not a money project for me. It's something to share as I go because I just find fulfillment in it. And then we're gonna build a $100 million company, and we're gonna exit. That's the goal. That's what we're gonna do in the next 3 years.
Why would you say no to that? I mean, I can take a few guesses, but I want to know, like, dude, that's a big decision. It's there to go. It was probably PE. Somebody was ready to like throw some weight behind it.
Yeah. Dude, it's the biggest decision I think business-wise I've ever made. It wasn't like a joke. It wasn't like hey, we have an offer for $15 million. This is like
do.
It was we had gone through a full process and it's okay, we're ready. We'll like wire this $15 million in escrow. Basically, like we need your yes, like at this moment. Because like we had extended beyond our LOI, so at this point I was not bound to do the deal, but they, had to ask.
And this is after they had done probably like just evaluation, saying business.
6 months of due diligence, and I mean massive energy from me, from my team. Like this is a big deal, and it was also like partly to fund like the next phase of growth and all these things. And but it was going to give up a big chunk of the business and essentially like control of what we were doing. And, oh, dude, why did I make that decision? Dude, I sat there, I looked at it, it's like $15 million. So this would be enough to like secure safety and all these things for my family right now. But to me, what I realized was I was going to make that decision out of a scarcity spot of like all of my trauma from growing up, of watching my dad build and lose everything, and then us go through all this trauma from it. I thought, man, I have to secure this opportunity. Like, I got this offer, I have to do this. Like, I have to secure this and put this aside so my family's safe. And I realized, like, but that wasn't like my goal. Like, that wasn't really what we set out to do. That's 6-year-old scared Braven talking. And I had a conversation with God this morning about it and felt like he approved of the decision to say no. And I told my wife, and she said, let's go. And so I let him know. And,
Holy.
you know, I think to me, here's what I really think is the reason I made the decision. The version of me that said yes to that deal didn't really have to change or evolve. If I could have said yes, I could have pretty much stayed the same guy, taken that money, kind of like started investing it, been happy, would have made a good amount of money. To do the other thing, to build a $100 million exitable company, I don't know how to do that. I'm not the guy to do that. I don't have the current capability to do that. I don't even know what that looks like, half of it. You know, talking about like at least doubling the revenue and EBITDA of the company and presenting it in a packageable, real way that is someone would want to spend 9 figures on. I don't know how to do that. I don't have the confidence to do that. I don't have the confidence to sit at that table. I don't have the confidence to have that negotiation. I don't have the network to have those conversations. I don't know who to go to talk about those things. So the guy who has to figure that out is going to require like full death and rebirth, recreation of a new man. And like that to me sounds a lot more like a fulfilled calling and purpose than taking $15 million and putting it in the market and getting to live off of it for the rest of my life.
And that's what you want to do. Like, that's where the adventure is. I think this is going to end up being your Tony Hawk moment. A lot of people don't know this. You ever play Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
I love that game. At a Nintendo 64 at my grandma's house.
Bro.
I'd tear that up.
You grind, you do the gaps.
Yeah.
What people don't know is right before Tony Hawk Pro Skater went live, Activision went to Tony Hawk and they said, we would like to pay you $500,000 and you get no royalties. There was no guarantee that this game was going to do as well. I mean, it's literally a generationally defining game. And they did like 10 versions after it. I mean, it made like tens, maybe hundreds of millions in sales. But Activision tried buying him out.
For $500,000.
For $500,000. And he had that same thought where like, he was known as Tony Hawk, but $500,000, you know, in like 1996, you're like, I'm going to say no to that? That's crazy. And so he's like, that would provide me security.
Yep.
And so maybe young, scared Tony Hawk would have liked that just to know, hey, I've got that there. But he said no to the deal. And then what that turned into was obviously tens of millions in distribution and royalties, and it turned into everything else, bro. That, I'm confident that was your Tony Hawk moment.
Yeah, one of my early mentors would always say, every time something bad would happen, he would say, we're living the story right now. And as I had the thought of like calling them to let them know I was not going to be taking $15 million, that thought from, you know, my mentors, Ian, came to my mind. And I was like, we're living the story right now. And I'm like, maybe the story will be like biggest mistake ever. We lost everything and I should have took the deal. No shit. And that'll be a cool story. But I was like, but it'll be a really cool story when we pull this off. And I really get to say, like, I sat there and looked as like a 28-year-old kid with the opportunity to become wealthier than anyone in my family generationally forever backwards. Combined. To have the most money that any of us have ever made and to sit there and to say, no, we're going to go build this. And I don't know. To me, it just sounds so fun. Like, dude, you're smiling. Like, my team, like, when I tell them, they're going to be smiling. Like, I'm like, what more exciting thing could you be a part of than that? And that seemed more fun to me than giving up the company and kind of like getting into this world of just kind of like rinse and repeat. So, yeah.
Which of the two paths has the adventure?
Yeah.
Damn, dude. Well, let's wrap up with this. What's in R&D right now? Because I got to tell you, if people don't know, I am on, you literally like made my honeymoon happen. It's quite the story. So I'm on your test gain supplement.
Yeah.
I take 8 a day. The bottle says 3. You're like, bro, take 8.
Yeah.
So I take 8. I feel amazing all the time. And then I take RG Pump every day, Elevation. So I get this nootropics, this niacin. I every day she sees it. Now I'll come in here, it'll hit, and I always start turning red. And I feel incredible. I'm taking that. I'm on creatine. You have the best creatine in the game. Instantized creatine. It's sophisticated. There's all these flavors. So I'm taking all of that and a few other things I can't remember. But
what's an
people
R&D?
buy into this and then they go down. They stay in the. I think it's the product horizontal because you just keep having more and more things you're adding to it. So it's. But what comes next? Because you have batted like every product has ripped.
Yeah, we're really committed to every product we put out is not like just me too. So even if it's like, you know, we're working on electrolyte right now and it's like, yeah, okay, there's other electrolytes, but we're very committed. Like, how can we truly make something unique and even if it's slightly better, like better, right? And so we've done a really good job of that with our team, and the team's done amazing with that with all of our products. But the big next thing is very R&D at the moment, but I don't even know.
We got to sign an NDA to
Yeah,
hear this part.
I think I think I can say it, but the big next thing is Gains Energy. And this was a big reason why also I said no to the deal is I want to do this. And we may have figured out, it's still in development, but may have figured out a way to keep 5 grams of creatine stable in an energy drink for up to 12 months, which has never been done before. And so it'll have 5 grams of instantized creatine in a naturally flavored, naturally sweetened, amazing, delicious. I literally drank the first official test run yesterday of the flavored version, and it's spot on. So it's like it'll be the best tasting natural energy drink on the market. Like I don't know if you've ever tried a natural energy drink. Almost all of them suck. Yeah. And if they don't suck, they have sucralose or aspartame or something in them. So it'll be naturally flavored. It's going to taste amazing, just like our creatines. It'll have 5 grams of creatine, instantized creatine in it, and then we haven't finalized the rest of the formula yet, but it's going to be really exciting. And to me, I think it has the potential to be sitting on any shelf, any gas station, any spot. And it's like if you had to pick the artificial one full of junk, or the one that has 5 grams of creatine and is natural and tastes amazing and it has all the natural ingredients. Like, to me, I hope that there's at least enough consumers that want to pick that one that say like, hell yeah, and that thing goes to be bigger than anything we've ever done up until this point.
Holy shit, dude.
Yeah.
Wow. You've got this like Elon level obsession where he's like, why is that bolt there? Do we need this? Like, does this reduce drag? Like, why is this here? You go back to first principles like over and over again, it seems. You actually really care about like making every single thing qualitatively better, which is like that obsession down to like the first way you approach creatine. You're like, oh, there's this way of doing it. We're doing it instantized. So this will probably have that same standard, it sounds like. It's going to rip. Why is it not shelf stable?
Creatine, when you heat it up, is not stable. It essentially becomes just not creatine. It just loses its stability. So that's why a lot of the gummies are not actually, they don't actually have creatine in them. So there's a bunch of studies coming out. A bunch of these companies are getting sued in lawsuits. Like it's a big deal right now in the industry. Yeah. So there are some gummies that are good. I can't knock every one of them. We're working on a shelf stable gummy at the moment, but most of them are not. Most of them do not have creatine in them because creatine, when heated up, it becomes unstable. And then creatine also in liquid for a long period of time, not like once you put it in your water, but like 24 hours later, it slowly starts to lose its stability and it just becomes not creatine. And it can actually turn into creatinine. And so anyway, it's just not stable as an ingredient on its own. It essentially breaks apart and becomes not creatine. And so the problem with energy drinks is the process of making an energy drink. You heat it up to make sure it's sterile as it goes in the can. Like there's this whole process to it. Yeah, every energy drink, it's like basically boiled at the point of like going into the can, and just a part of the process. Every one of them gets heated up dramatically, and yeah, so that along with it just being in liquid alone causes an issue. But then when it gets heated, it just like basically destroys everything in it. And so anyway.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no one's pulled it off. There are some energy drinks out there, like quote unquote, that have creatine in them, but it's the one company that's done it, they show a 30% stability. So if they put 5 grams in it, you're getting like 2 grams.
2.
And so, you're getting 3 grams of whatever waste product that turned into. And so that's kind of the best that's on the market at the moment. And we're looking at a hopeful 97% stability at 12 months, which is huge. And so it's still in process. Like, we will launch it the moment we get the final, like, it's stable and been proven multiple times. It'll launch, but we kind of are waiting on some of those final things. But there's really good 6-month data, and we're just kind of like waiting to officially bring it at the time where we know we're not going to bring something that we know it's not good. So, yeah, that's the big thing. Yeah, I mean, Bang got in trouble for this, right? Like, saying that there was creatine in it, and then Monster sued him because technically there was none in it. I don't know if they were actually putting it in there and it was just becoming unstable, or if they were just never even putting it in there in the first place. But either way, the consumer was not getting creatine. And, all the banks said, like, super creatine.
It did.
And there was not actually creatine to the consumer. So,
which is crazy, because if you played the beverage industry, right? I mean, Celsius blew up, and I think, what did they sell for, like $4 billion or $12 billion or something in like 3 years of being on the market?
And they're like publicly traded, a huge market cap. Yeah,
I mean, it's like an obscene growth if you play the cards right.
Yeah,
you get that distribution. 'Cause everybody loves the damn energy drink, dude. It's so widely. Okay, so you basically got the Walter White Heisenberg blue meth, 97% purity, the creatine energy drink. Dude, that's incredible. I will buy them.
Yes, thank you.
Braven, you are a legend, dude. I appreciate you. I appreciate maybe you Committed Men group. I'm excited about that, so I'm looking forward to the event. But I cherish you as a friend, and you have some people are not good at allowing others to develop what are called parasocial relationships. So they have, they're on screen, but then it's like they themselves are not, they're too opaque.
Yeah.
And so then people that are watching, in this case, this conversation, they're not going to come away from this being like, yeah, like I totally, I feel like I know Braven better. It's like they do. They come away from this, and it's just whatever people think. It's like, this is the recipe for success, is being like, no matter which way you turn him, it's the same guy. And just like a really warm heart.
Thank you.
Crazy outlook, huge wins, dude. I'm very, I'm honored to have this energy drink announcement and this morning saying no to the 15 million.
Yeah,
dude, it's a massive day. So we're pouring it in concrete. It's framed. Brother, thank you so much. Congrats on all the wins.
Thank you. I'm excited to look back on this episode in a few years.
Yeah, that's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years, 20, 30, you'll be like, I did a podcast the day I said no to that. And you'll probably be exiting for like 100, 150 million at that point.
That'll be fun.
You're a legend, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.